Court is called to order, friends, and tonight I want you to look past the scoreboard, because the scoreboard is technically true and completely misleading. Yesterday, the House voted down an amendment to cut off Israel's military aid, 314 to 104. Every wire headline will file that as business as usual. Then you read the roll call, the actual names, and business as usual is not what the record says. Tonight's case is about the number hiding inside the laws. The moment, for the record. On July 15th, Representative Thomas Massie of Kentucky moved to strip $3.3 billion in military aid to Israel out of the year's State Department spending bill. The House said no, 104 to 314. Massie was the only Republican to vote yes. The rest of his conference lined up against it, and 98 Democrats joined them in the no column. If you stop reading there, nothing happened. Do not stop reading there. Exhibit A, the number underneath. Set the Republicans aside and look at the Democratic caucus alone. 103 Democrats voted to cut the aid, 98 voted no, 10 voted present. That is not a fringe bloc, jury. That is a near majority of the House Democratic caucus, on the record, by name, voting to zero out military aid to Israel. 2 years ago, you could count that position's supporters on your fingers. Look at the chart, because this is the vote the headline buried. And the fracture runs straight through the leadership table. Minority Leader Jeffries voted no, saying the amendment is overly broad, that it would hinder humanitarian aid and refugee resettlement. The party whip, Clark of Massachusetts, whose actual job is counting these votes, went the other way, and said why in writing. The status quo is not tenable. We should not provide a blank check for military aid to any country that does not comply with U.S. law, interests, and values. Former Speaker Nancy Pelosi voted yes too. And note the quiet part. Leadership was not whipping against the amendment. They let the caucus vote its conscience, and this is what its conscience said. If you want to know why 103 members found their voice this week, look at who they answer to. A New York Times Siena poll in late May found 74% of Democratic voters oppose sending Israel additional economic or military aid, nearly 3 in 4. The members are not leading their base somewhere new, jury. They are catching up to where their base already went. Now the vehicle, because context is evidence too. The amendment rode on H.R. 8595, the State Department spending bill, which passed the same day, 217 to 209. That bill cuts global health, humanitarian, and economic assistance by $902 million from last year. And Republican leaders folded the SAVE Act, a proof of citizenship voting measure, into the same package. The Senate could still strip any of it. So the night's full picture: the aid to Israel stayed, the aid to everyone else shrank, and a voting restriction hitched a ride. Cross-examination, because the record cuts both ways. The amendment failed, and not narrowly. The $3.3 billion flows. A cynic will tell you nothing happened yesterday, and for today, the cynic is right. Be fair to the no votes, too. Jeffries did not stand up and defend the aid. He objected that the blade was too wide, that it would catch refugee programs in the same cut. Some of those 98 would vote for a narrower knife. But that is exactly the point, jury. The question tonight was never whether the aid ends. It was whether the consensus behind it is still solid. Ask the roll call. Who pays while the line moves this slowly? Gaza does. The same reporting is blunt about it. A U.S. armed Israeli military has kept killing through a 9-month ceasefire, and yesterday's vote changes none of that, because the aid was not cut. And there is a second cost, closer to home. A public that reads only the final tally gets told the ground is not moving while it moves under their feet. Fixed points in politics do not send out a press release when they stop being fixed. They show up in roll calls first, and then one day the policy follows. So enter it in the ledger. A position a handful of members held 2 years ago is now 103 names on a recorded vote, including the party's own whip and its former speaker, with 3 in 4 of their voters already there. The aid survived the vote. The consensus behind it did not. When the story is a realignment, watch the direction, not the scoreboard, because the scoreboard always breaks the news last. Court stands adjourned. I'm Madeline, and this is Pixel Politics.